Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Growing Generations podcast. My name is Emmanuel Arce, well known as the Ultimate Gardener. And today's fun episode. So, today is our second episode. Last week on Tuesday, we interviewed my good friend or my Floridian gardener, Dominique from Farm Unique. And so, that was episode number one. And so now we're going to go ahead and move on to episode number two. And this week's featured guest is Danny over from the Grow Up channel. Danny, I've collaborated with multiple times in the past. He's a great avid gardener in the UK, and he is set to inspire other gardeners to get into the garden industry and help them have success in the garden. And so we have a few people onto the live stream. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you leave them in the live chat so we can answer them, etc. So without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Danny into the live stream.
Hello, you're right, Emmanuel. Thanks for tuning off the fish tank.
The fish tank. All right, so in this episode, we'll be mainly focusing on garden preparation. I know in multiple different states or different countries, they are still in freezing temperatures. Here in South Florida, our freezing temperature is the 50s. That's already killer for us. And so we're able to grow all year round. However, in other states or other countries, they're currently doing their garden preparation for the upcoming growing season that will start around March, all the way maybe up until April, depending where your last frost date is. So I know Danny's in the UK. So what are the
Yes.
regular temperatures in your area currently?
I think it's about on a good day 5-6 degrees, maybe 7. It's to us that's quite cold. And that's why I've got a bit of a funny voice. I've got a bit of a cold as well. But yeah, we're going through it. Spring's nearly here. March, April, we'll be good to go. But it's all the spring prep now. So yeah, that's what
Ooh,
we'll talk about today.
that is too cold. That is deadly for
So
us.
cold.
That is so
It's
deadly for us.
it's been at like -1, freezing temperatures last week and stuff. So everything's been closhed, fleeced. You haven't got away with those things, but we have to like put fleece cloths over things, cloth things over to protect them from, the cold elements. And that's why we have polytunnels as well, not just for, hot weather for tomatoes and things, which you guys don't have to do. But for us, we have to do that for summer and also use it for autumn and winter as well to keep things protected from the cold. But even that could be not enough, but we try.
Yeah, even over here in Southern Florida, even though we might only go down to the 40s or the 50s, that is still kind of cold for some of the plants we grow here. Some of the plants we grow actually end up dying because of the cold, the
Mm.
random drops of temperatures. And so we do have to have some type of garden preparation for not only winter, but it's very mild. It's very mild. So, like for me, I barely do anything. I almost don't do nothing for preparation for the winter. I kind of like if I lose the plant, I lose the plant moving forward. Because I know most of the plants I have are already sturdy. They can handle lots of rain. They can handle harsh conditions, and so I'm able to not worry so much. But the non-native plants or the more delicate type plants, I have to really take care of. And so let's go ahead and say hi to some people here in the chat already. I know Rob's Allotment Gardening is here with us. Hi, Rob. How are you? We also have Gem in the Garden, which I know is a really good friend of Danny, and she is a great supporter over there
He's
as
all right.
well.
He's all right.
We also have our good friend Jay Dixon over here. He is a great person, amazing person, great moderator as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, so Jay's a lady?
Well, I don't know.
I thought Jay was a guy.
I thought Jay was the guy too. Can you please clarify that?
Jay, you're a guy, right? Let's hope he says yes. If not, we've all been making a mistake for a long time. But I see Jay on a few lives
Yeah,
and
I
things.
see Jay everywhere. Like she's
Yeah,
like
he's a
they're
moderator.
everywhere.
He says
And
gender irrelevant. Jay's a guy. But yeah, I see Jay everywhere. He's a moderator on so many lives. Not a moderator on mine, though, but yeah, he's a
temperature
moderator on
facts
quite a
for my
lot.
region code is -25.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. I don't know where that is, but that's nowhere near here. That must be like Canada or somewhere.
Probably.
Yeah.
Negative
It's
25
too
is kind of deep.
yeah, it's okay. Like I think this has been quite a mild winter. We haven't had snow yet, and we're looking forward to that. I don't know if you got those pictures, but we've got pictures of like snow and stuff. I don't know if you've uploaded that one, but even things like our palm, like I'm one of the only ones that I think that I know of that's got like um, you know, the big banana plants and stuff on my plot, and it always looks quite, tropical and stuff. It's not the most traditional allotment, but I have got the grapevine garden as well, which is quite traditional with a lot of raised beds and the greenhouse and the chickens and things. But the friggin' olive plots, I've got two plots. Yeah, that's a little bit different. That's more the fun one. I've got the big polytunnel and big raised beds and the banana plant and stuff right in the middle of the plot. So it does look quite tropical. But I'm not sure if you've got those pictures up yet of you, Manuel.
I have the
Yeah, there
winter
we
one, so
go.
this is like a winter wonderland right here. I wish to have snow,
Yeah.
although and sometimes I wish I don't. Um,
Do you know what?
but
I
I
broke I
know
broke my own rule as go on. I broke my own rule as well because normally I thought I sent landscape pictures, so I do apologize for that when I was rushing sending that one. So I thought I sent you in because normally that's a petty of mine if people send those. But yeah, it's going to be snowing soon. I think. Fingers crossed.
let's see. I know I
Yeah,
have the photo of yeah, there it
there
is.
you go. Yeah, that's
That is
so the people
pretty.
see the banana plant. So I was looking at your pictures the other day, and I noticed that you had like your banana plant looked a little bit different to mine. It was somewhat you had bananas on it at one point as well, and like we don't want that here because once the bananas come, the plant dies, right? But to me, it's
Yeah.
just more of a structural thing. So it'll grow again this year, and I might have to lower it down because eventually it'll get to about 8, 10 foot and even higher. But for now, it's only a baby, so I've raised it up so that it gets as much sunlight and goodness in that bed. So yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Like I know for us, so here's how our bananas look here in southern Florida.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
very tall, very prolific. So have you actually harvested bananas from that tree before?
No, never. And I don't want to either because yeah, I don't want to. So if that's to me is more of a structural thing, and I don't know how much they are where you live, but they're pretty expensive banana plants. Like I paid about £50, Great British pounds, for my plant, and that's one of the babies off my original plant. But yeah, they're quite expensive. They're just not something that you can just pop and you can buy. So to you, it's probably a weed, as they like. You probably just think, oh, we've got a banana plant. We just take it off the side of the road.
Very easy to grow. They're super easy to get here in Southern Florida. However, there
Mm,
is certain varieties that we look into.
yeah.
For example, the ice cream banana, that's one of the ones we grow at the farm,
Mm.
which is a more like a turquoise teal peel. And we also have the variegated banana, which is another weird banana.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've got like a reddish one in the front garden. I think that's like a musubaju or something, and I think that's more of a more of an Albany red sort of color. And yeah, it does okay, but yeah,
Yeah, there
they don't
is
grow big.
so many varieties of
Yeah,
bananas, and
yeah.
it is unbearable. I know from like where I work at the farm, we have dozens and dozens of varieties. I don't even know which ones are which. They all look almost the same. They all look different. They don't. I don't can't keep up with how many they are.
Yeah.
However, based on the variety is based on how expensive they are. I know like
Mhm.
the most expensive one we have currently is a banana called and like it's saying no no in one word. That one's a super rare type of banana. Let me see if I can find a photo so I could send it or show it into the live stream.
Yeah,
Really rare. We paid like around $75 for a like slightly grown tissue culture.
that's
Uh,
about the same. That's about the price that we pay here for a normal. I think we must have quite hardy varieties, but like again, like my banana doesn't look like that now. It's all fleeced over, and it's got bubble wrap around it, and it's got another waterproof covering over the top, and it'll stay like that. So for the banana plant in the UK, especially where the climate I'm in, I'm about zone 8B, maybe 9, zone 9. And for half of its annual year is covered up. So it's more just structural, just for spring and summer. As
Mhm.
soon as the last frost goes now, and I think my area is about April the 1st, April the 2nd, and that's when we don't get no more frost. And well, hopefully, and then I will unwrap it, and it'll look terrible. It won't be the best looking plant for the garden, especially on the my channel, but um, it'll spring to life within a couple of weeks, and it'll be in all
Definitely.
its glory for the summer, just like it always is. So yeah.
So this is the banana we're currently growing at the farm. So this one is the rare variety. So as you can see with the foliage and the fruit, let alone, it's weird. And so it's almost like if you expose it to proper sunlight, the leaves could almost look pitch black. And
Wow.
so that's what we're trying to achieve. And so we paid $75 for like a small tissue culture to grow on. And so that's like the most expensive. Another one we have is the variegated Florida variety, which imagine that except with white and green variegation, except of black and red.
Well, that's really nice. That one is. I don't think we've ever seen that here. So it's probably too temperamental for our climate, but it looks
Yeah,
beautiful.
they are very sensitive, let alone here in Florida, they're very sensitive. Once they get the hang of
Yeah.
it, they'll grow really well. It's just they need lots of care. All right, so let's see. I saw a question here from Gemma. How many bananas do you harvest from one tree? Do you want to answer that with your one banana, or do you want me to answer?
Zero, and I don't want to.
So with Danny's banana, it's zero. With mine's, it's whenever the mother plant is throwing out we call it racks of bananas. You could have dozens and dozens of fingers of bananas in that one rack. But once one is producing fruit, it will usually shoot out another one that is flowering. So by the time you harvest the bananas, you'll have a second bunch already developing, like in the corner, like in that one photo you guys probably that I showed. You can
Mm.
see here there's like two different branches growing at the same time. It totally depends on how old the banana tree is as well, because if it's super young, you're looking for about one branch that one season, but once it gets older, the amount of bananas you harvest increases.
So I was under the impression though that once bananas are fruited, the plant dies. Is that right? So that's what happens
So
here with our variety.
the banana, if the plant in which the banana is attached to, that plant does die. You have to cut it back.
Yeah.
However, it will shoot up babies constantly, so you can get a
Yeah.
constant harvest. So it won't like
Well,
completely die off.
so what do they call banana babies in your area?
Pups, banana
Yeah,
pups.
we call them pups as well. I think that's quite a nice thing. We also call, it's like puppies, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Is there any?
so, yeah, huh?
No, no, go on. I was just saying, it's really nice to see some of the people that regularly view and stuff joining in. So it's quite nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
definitely. It's really amazing to see how many people are joining onto the live stream and joining with us. And so when it comes to garden preparation, there's multiple things you have to consider. One, the first crops you'll plant. Two, the care you'll give them, the feed you'll give them. There are so many things you have to keep in consideration when it comes to growing or prepping your garden for the upcoming growing season. So in my perspective, we barely do any preparation since we're gardening 24/7, 365 days a year, because we don't deal with harsh weather conditions. So we're able to grow and prepare for like the few months that will go ahead, or if it gets too hot, if it gets too cold. We don't have very a set preparation unless you're planning to like do a garden design or a food forest like what we do. Then you would have to do preparation. However, if you're planning to grow basic vegetables in a plant, like in an area, you kind of choose the plants that you kind of like for that season, because we break it off into winter crops and summer crops. And we usually plant our winter and summer crops during the winter season. So we do both fall and winter. That's our peak growing season. And whatever we grow in the summer, it's ideally like Everglades tomatoes or any type of fruit trees, because basic
Mm.
vegetables can't grow down here during the summer. So we do the basics when it comes to garden preparation. How about you,
I think
Danny?
I think it's completely the opposite. So we look forward to spring and then summer, and yeah, it's the opposite. So summer's like our harvesting season, and then autumn then is we're breaking into winter then. So the last of the harvests, preparing for planting garlic, and then winter then we tend to use to prepare the garden for the following year. And I'm pretty much set up now, and yeah, I'm on track. You know, I've got my polytunnel and that all the staging is all up inside there now, ready for all the seedlings, and I've got some grow lights here, and I've got quite a few lettuces growing already, and they're looking really, really good and healthy.
Those are
So
looking very good.
I don't normally do lettuces this early, and I don't normally rely on grow lights for them. The grow lights are normally for just chilies and peppers, because here we have to start them off really early because of our short season for chilies and peppers. So yeah, we have to use grow lights and heat mats and things for those from the germinate, otherwise they won't. And then, but I'm doing the lettuce because I've got a future project that's coming up for spring, and I need quite
Ooh.
good plants to start that. So yeah,
That's really cool. Yeah, for like us right now, like what I'm currently growing is like green beans, tomatoes, peppers, anything in that area. That's what I'm currently growing because that's what does best during this time of period. However, we are getting too close to the point where it's starting to become too late to start gardening in our area.
yeah,
And so, what we usually have to do when it comes to prepping for summer or spring, we usually either grow a cover crop, like whether it be like a grain or something like that. That's what we usually do during the summer. Or what we do is we do food forestry because it's super easy to just do food forestry or food forestry or permaculture because you get food all year round without constantly like picking at your plants, constantly caring for them, giving them water, giving them fertilizer. It's a very easy style of gardening, especially when it comes to Floridians, because it's the most easiest to do. And
yeah.
so that's what kind of like we do over here. Like right now, I've harvested over at the farm. We've harvested carrots, tomatoes, greens, green beans, herbs, a whole bunch of stuff we're currently harvesting. And we still have lots more to harvest until the season ends. So,
What did you just say then? Herbs,
but
herbs,
no, that we're
herb.
just is that we're harvesting a whole bunch of stuff at the moment, and our season's ending, and so we have to prepare for the upcoming season, which is spring and summer. Ideally, during this time, we usually like what I usually do is grow cut flowers because those are the ones that do the best instead of vegetables. However, I have grown onions in the summer. I never have grown garlic because one, I've always failed. Two, my climate's not set for garlic. And
Right.
so I found a substitute, which is like society garlic or garlic vine. Those are fit into permacultural gardening that are actually stronger than regular garlic. And then onions, have grown them from start, but they're not like those huge head-sided onions.
Yeah.
So what you
Uh,
planning on growing up this upcoming season?
Um, excuse me. At the moment, I've got like my onions in, lettuce. The garlic's growing really well. Yeah, tomatoes will be coming up now in March, and then yeah, chilies, and the chilies are looking really good as well. So they just keep getting potted on indoors until the last frost, and then they'll go up into the polytunnel. So we have to grow a lot of those things indoors, over cover rather than out and out climate. But we also then, that doesn't sound like we're lucky with the weather. I actually feel like our weather is a little bit more easier on growing things like greens and cabbages, lettuces, things like that, because we've got a little bit of cooler temperature. We also got heat as well, but there's no extreme heats or anything. But our temperatures are changing and our climate's changing as well. So we're noticing that we're getting hotter summers and colder winters. So yeah, we just plod on, and that's exactly what we do. So
Yeah, definitely. Like something what I've discussed when I was with Danny over at the episode we did at his channel, the
mm,
Growth channel. I suck at seed starting. Whether I like hate it, I don't know why. I just am really impatient. The only seeds I successfully grow are like your basic legumes, your basic greens, stuff like that. But when it comes to chilies and stuff like that, I ideally just grow the starts because for here in Florida, our chilies suffer very badly, especially with the
well,
humidity and everything. We get heavy doses of white fly. If there is nothing on your plant the first week. The second week, you'll always have Wi-Fi. You'll always have some type of blight. You'll always have something going on with your peppers. I will be trying
Mhm.
something new this upcoming season, which is like soaking onions in water and treating them with that, because someone has told me that that works and they've tried it themselves and they like have proof of it. And so I want to try it out for myself because I am currently growing cayennes and jalapenos in the back right now in a new area I did. And they're already showing signs of disease. And so I had to
Ah,
try to do that. And the thing is, I only planted them like about 2 weeks ago. And so, as well as with tomatoes, like the Roma tomatoes I have, they're producing and everything, but it won't be long until hornworms or blight finds them. And
yeah.
so I have to find ways to clear them out so I could get something off of them.
Do you not net things? Because I've noticed, like, have you not noticed that on the British channels we net everything? So
Yeah,
everything's netted from butterflies to earwigs, slugs. I
I
net everything.
don't like nets. I
Nobody likes them, but I like to have crops. So I like to have crops over nets over not having the nets. But yeah, I agree. If I'm gonna do like a plot tour, I'll take all the nets off and then I'll quickly do the plot tour, watching that there's no butterflies coming out the ley, and then I'll quickly put the nets back on. But yeah,
with
um,
netting, even with that, it's so hard because one, it's an investment of a lot of money. It's a lot of money I have to invest into nets, especially since it's not one little area I'm covering. If not, maybe the entire garden. Might as well keep them in a
mm,
bubble. However, the whole point of permaculture or food forestry is to not mess with the garden. It's kind of to just let it go, figure it out for themselves. If they die, they die. They don't make it. We move on to something that's stronger. And
yeah,
so something we do here is, especially like my business partner, this is her area, this is her land. Something she always was looking for is newer species that were genetically modified, that are more easier to take care of. They're more disease resistant, etc. And so whenever companies or tropical plant companies or nurseries would always release these newer species of plants or updated versions, we would always purchase them and trial them in our own gardens until, if we see if they're doing well, then we'll sell them locally and online. And so something I like to do personally is kind of plant my plants and leave them alone, because I feel like if we keep messing with them, then they will be more sensitive to disease. The disease will become resistant to whatever we're treating it with. The plant will get more delicate, etc. And so what I do is just plant it. If they make it, they make it. If they don't, they don't. We're moving on to
oof,
something new. And so it's always something changing in my garden. It's not always settled. Although the design might be set and the fruit trees might be, in quotes, permanent, that doesn't mean that everything else around is going to be permanent. Whether it be like a taro that will die, I'll replace it with the Mickey Mouse taro. There's so many things we change when
mm,
it comes to food forestry here in Southern Florida, especially since in my district, in my school district, they are requiring every school to have a food forest. Since in my school we teach agriculture, I'm one of the assistants in agriculture. I teach FFA at my school, but every district is required to have a food forest, even if they have a agricultural science class, or if they don't, they just have to have one
mm,
because it fulfills that duty of like a club, a gardening club. However, in high school we don't have something that's called gardening club, if not Future Farmers of America, which we train them in agriculture and leadership. So that's what we kind of do. And we have our pretty good, decent sized food forest to work around. And so we'll be getting into more plantings this upcoming season with the members of FFA. So when it comes to beginner gardeners, I always tend to roundabout back to beginner gardeners because that's what I like to focus on. I'm a young gardener. My main focus is developing young gardeners around the world, around the nation. Doesn't matter. I just want to help develop and inspire gardeners to get their hands in the dirt and start their own garden. Hence why our podcast name is Growing Generations. And so, is there any tips or advice you could give to beginner gardeners when it comes to garden preparations? What are the first things they need to knock off on their list in order to set themselves up for success in the garden in the upcoming growing season?
I think like if you watch my channel, I've improved over the time that I've been growing as well. So I think don't spend the money out at the start because you might actually not enjoy gardening, or you might think that it's just going to be an constant expense. So I would say use things like, yogurt pots and, packaging and things as well as seed trays. And then later on, you can then buy extra expensive things if you want to improve, but it won't change your expertise as a gardener. It'll just give you a better growing medium to use, like seed trays and things. But it doesn't mean, I could grow it in a yogurt pot or a plant pot. It's still going to grow the same. So I think, just don't just go out and splash out from the start, and just enjoy it, and hopefully then, you'll become hooked like everyone else does, and then you'll expand over time. But don't think, oh, I got to grow everything, because you can get too excited as well of how you grow things. And just grow what you like as well, because a lot of people think, I'll grow that, and then there'll be a whole bed of something, and you'll think, I actually don't like that, but um it's there. Then what do you do with it? But then on the other hand of that as well, like I've started growing things that I don't particularly like I'm not a big fan of celery, and I grew it last year, and because the wind kept blowing the scent around the garden, I've actually come accustomed to it now, and I actually do like it a bit more than I did before. So there is swings and roundabouts to it, but yeah, just grow what you like at the start, and just don't fork out loads and loads of money on gardening, fancy gadgets, and then you might not enjoy it. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely I agree with that because when it comes to beginner gardeners, something they want to do is just dive right in. They don't think about it, they just dive right in, they spend lots of money, etc. And so when it comes to garden preparation or starting a garden, you always want to keep in mind the cost. Unless you're some rich person in a mansion, then that's something else. However, if you're a gardener like me, who gardening on a budget, we have to pinpoint the plants that we would definitely grow and like. For example, something a lot of gardeners do when they're starting their gardens is knock out the vegetables you will know that you will like and you will eat, like your basic chilies, your tomatoes, your cucumbers, anything that you know you'll eat, like you buy from a regular store. Plant those in bigger quantity. Anything that you see cooler that you feel is like so unique, but you never heard of it or tried it, grow them in smaller portions because then it'll maximize your gardening space and you won't spend so much time, care, or money into that specific crop. That's a mistake I've done before, which I've grown patches and patches of new plants that I've never really liked. And that there goes a waste of nutrients, a waste of land, waste of money, waste of fertilizer, waste of everything. So when it comes to gardening, definitely pinpoint your heavy hitters. That's what I call them, your heavy hitters, that you will always have year after year that will never disappoint you and you'll love and enjoy in the garden. And so you have to do some research upon other cooler varieties, how you grow them, etc., as well as the area you're located in, because that will also determine how you grow your plants, what time, what season, etc., because that will really help when it comes to that. And so something Jay put into the live comments was the link for FFA. So Future Farmers of America is usually for students who are interested in agriculture and teaching agriculture, anything in agriculture. FFA is the organization you want to go to. There's certain limited schools that actually provide this course. Ideally, what would happen is you would go to other states, competitions, you would compete for like propagations, compete for mechanical work, a whole bunch of stuff, and then you'll be progressing in chapters after they go. We aren't an official chapter at my school, and so we haven't done competitions at all since our club advisor is also the cheerleading coach, and so she doesn't have a lot of time on her hands. And so then I took over FFA, and so that's something I'm definitely considering for next year. However, we'll have to see how that ends up going. And so once again, garden preparation is something you definitely have to consider if you're a beginner gardener. However, if you're gardening for years now, like me and Danny, we usually just barely do the bare minimum when it comes to garden preparation because we already know the basics. We jump right into it, and we ideally would get something off the upcoming year. For example, I know one of the photos Danny sent me was one of his harvest photos right
Ooh,
here.
looks like I know what
So
I'm doing there, right?
give us a little insight of this.
So I think there's a chikikuri squash at the front, and I think this was for tomato soup that I was making. Yeah, it was. So I had Brad's atomic tomatoes. They were all my canning tomatoes at the back, and then a few pumpkins and squashes as well. And the foliage that you can see right at the top of the screen, that's all my spring cabbages that we grow all through winter, all through autumn and winter, and then I actually planted them out in the polytunnel after the tomatoes, and they're all growing really well now. So yeah, there's I think I think when you when I'm growing things now, I need to remember what I'm going to be using them for in the next season. So I always make sure I've got a lot of canning tomatoes because I make things like sauces and tomato sauces and things, and also soups. But then I also like things to plan for, instant meals as well, like new potatoes and things, because I know that they'll be used very quickly in spring, so and in early summer. So yeah, I only tend to grow um a lot of it for what I'm eat rather than just growing for fun. But
Mhm.
when you have a YouTube channel, it does change you a little bit because you get tempted by the pretty colors and the fancy things. And as much as I said, I wouldn't want people to go over to my channel and think, oh, eco's always on a budget, because it is still my hobby. And I have invested in my channel and also my growing space as well. I've got nice raised beds and the polytunnel and stuff. So but I'm just saying, if you start off, then yeah, take your time.
Yes, so to keep in consideration, like something Jay and Rob put in the comment section is that they grow a whole bunch of types of vegetables and they end up giving them away to families and friends. And so that's something
Mm,
I also like to do with my I call her my second mother, but she's my neighbor next door. She
yeah,
always gets fresh eggs from the farm, fresh veggies, fresh herbs, fresh everything. If she requests it, she'll get it. And so I always love sharing the things we grow, because not only are we able to feed ourselves, but we also love feeding other people with the things we grow in our garden, especially since they're organic, we grew it, etc. And so, is there any other tips you would like to give when it comes to garden preparation, wherever you are in the world, whether you be in the UK, Canada, and Mexico, and the United States? What are some other tips you may give to other gardeners who are seeking this?
definitely share. Gardening can be a lonely thing sometimes, where I'm quite lucky that we have a different sort of style of communal gardening than a lot of other countries do. We have things called allotments, which is where both my plots are, my growing spaces are, and we rent those um, either from a private landholder or from our local council. And where I live, they're fairly, very inexpensive, but definitely, push yourself out there as well and be a bit more communal, share, because I've always found that growing with the masses is better than just growing on your own. And the same as YouTube as well. That's why I've reached out to a lot of YouTubers this year, and in the last 12 months, because I feel like we all have the same hobby and passion. So why would we all want to be single units on YouTube and in your garden? If you've got a communal garden and stuff, you can make a friend with exactly the same hobby as you. Why would you not want to do that? And you can also share things as well. If you have a spoiled crop, then you can also share with a neighbor or friend. It's a win-win situation, I think. So I think, having friends with the same hobbies is definitely a benefit for you and for them. Someone's asked, how much do you pay for yours? And so my allotted site, it's very, very minimal amount of money. I think for the whole year, I pay on average about 23, 24 pounds a year for my growing space, but that I have two, so I think I pay about less than 45 Great British pounds for the whole year, and that's water. It's a gated growing area, and we have one of the largest sites, so I think we've got about maybe 150 growing areas. So there's lots of friends to make there.
Yeah, definitely. I would always recommend finding friends that are local but also online. It's really important you connect with other gardeners, because gardening is not a solo act. You might be a solo act in your channel, recording your videos, etc. But you'll always find someone who you'll be connected with, like with me, with Dominique over at Farm Unique. She lives just in Central Florida. We share the same passion. We connect online. And so it's definitely great when it comes to gardening, because you always want to find that community you could fit into, that will always have your support and will always give you tips and advice whenever you look for it. I know Jay's asking a question.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out the answer to it.
So
Um, I think he's asking about what size they're both full plots, but I'm trying. They're not the exact same size. So I know the fig and olive plot where I've got the polytunnel. That's a little bit smaller, but it's neither here nor there. So there are two full allotment sites, but I'm trying to find. I have got somewhere the square footage, but I can't remember it off by heart. Should know really though. He's saying an estimate, and I'll have a look.
yeah, definitely. And so when it comes to gardening, whether you be in a small space, apartment complex, townhouse, house like I do, totally depends, but you can work with what you have. Some people do container gardening, some people do raised bed gardening, some do landscaping like I do, some of them do in cloth pots. It's just totally what fits to you and how and the space you're given as well. Because I know there's so little space in certain areas that they rely on pure smaller pots that they can only grow like basic herbs or tomatoes and stuff like that. So
So I found out the size of mine. So the Grapevine Garden, the original plot, that's 152 square meters, and the Fig and Olive is 142 square meters. So yeah, they look bigger on. I think they look bigger on the channel because I think I've got like a wide lens. But yeah, they're still decent size, plots. But and they're enough to grow with. But yeah, so on average, I've got the two plots, and it's plenty for me to grow for me, my friends, my family, and also, I tend to grow a few extras of everything because by spring there'll be a pile more plot holders coming on, and I like to plant a bit for them as well, so that when they come round, I can give them extra seedlings, and it starts a good friendship, I think, and there's nothing worse than starting off and not knowing anything, and it's nice to have a welcoming face, and then they can give them a few seedlings to like plant off so that they're ahead of the season. So yeah,
yeah,
it's a good setup that we've got in the UK.
yeah, I definitely agree as well. So that is going to be the end of the live stream. Does anybody else have any questions? Because that would be the time to do so now.
Yeah,
It was really fun. Let alone this is the only second episode that we filmed here at Growing Generations podcast. I know I attempted doing pre-recorded videos at my main channel. However, it wasn't the same. It wasn't getting the same retention since I don't have access to live streaming in my main channel. So I had to create a new one. So I'm trying to build up this channel along with the Ultimate Gardener channel as well. So definitely follow me over there at Emmanuel Arsha dash the Ultimate Gardener here at the Growing Generation podcast. And definitely, of course, follow Danny in the Grow Up channel as well. So the next live stream is going to be with Amir from Amir's Allotment next week, Wednesday at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which is 10 o'clock UGT, I believe, right? Yes.
yeah.
And so, yeah, next week our featured guest is Amir. So make sure you go over there to that pre-scheduled live stream over there and turn on notifications so when we go live you'll get notified, as well as subscribe to all channels listed including Danny's, mine's, and the podcast show so you can stay updated as well. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you again, Danny, for joining us on this live
You're
stream.
welcome.
A pleasure having you, and it will always be. So hopefully we'll have you on the podcast show another time soon.
Of course.
So we'll see you guys next time. Make sure that we're growing generations by generations. See you all. Bye.